team is looking for some divine intervention. You know that Kansas City likes to bring it on. And the attack is soaring with confidence as they point toward an insurmountable lead. Will they be jumping back for joy in Cleveland tonight? We'll find out on Balls of Fire, the 96 Finals on ESPN2. The Cleveland State Convocation Center in downtown Cleveland. It's the NPSL Finals, game number 3 between the Kansas City Attack and Cleveland Crunch. Cleveland, the rock and roll city, but the Crunch looking for a new beat. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Johnson, and welcome to NPSL Finals, game number 3 on ESPN2 between the Cleveland Crunch and Kansas City Attack. 3 years ago, the Kansas City Attack won the NPSL Championship Series by defeating the Cleveland Crunch. And right now, the Attack, as we mentioned, have the 2 games to none lead. But in the playoffs, the home team typically has the advantage. And tonight, it's the Cleveland Crunch that is the home team. My broadcast partner is Art Kramer. We talk about how Kansas City has gotten out to a 2 games to none lead. We know about their all-stars, guys like Goran Hunyak, Brian Haynes, but they really have spread out the production on this Kansas City team.
Well, Dave, Kansas City is the deepest team in the league, and they have shown that in this series thus far. We talked about their key players, but 4 guys that have really done a great job for them that they really don't consider key players are these 4 right here. You see they've combined for 10 goals and 6 assists. They put up big numbers in the first 2 games of this series, and the main guy has been Ryan Lofton, who has scored 6 goals, including 5 goals in Game 1 to give Kansas City that 1-game lead.
All right, so Brian Lofton may not be a household name in indoor soccer, but he's becoming a household name with this NPSL Final Series. Talking about the Cleveland Crunch, now maybe injuries a factor. They're missing their team captain, Andy Schmetzer. He is out. Zoran Karic, very talented player, has been hobbled with an injury, but injury is really a part of this time of year. So what do the Cleveland Crunch have to do to get back in this series?
Well, we talked to Coach Bruce Miller, and he said quite simply, we got to play better defense if we want to have any chance to stay in this series. Now, Cleveland's defense has let them down in a couple ways. They've given Kansas City's forwards way too much space, and I tell you, Otto Orff has been outstanding in this series. And you wouldn't know it considering all the points that Cleveland has given up, but they've also made mistakes turning the ball over in their own zone in critical points during the game. And I tell you what, not even the great 0-0 Otto Orff can pull them out of situations like those.
Well, the old cliche, old adage in the playoffs, it's defense that wins championships. We'll see if that comes into play in this NPSL Final Series. Getting set for the kickoff. Let's take a look at the starting lineups of tonight's contest. First for the Kansas City Attack, Brett Phillips in goal, Nate Hauser, Wes Wade at the back, Jason Farrell, Gordon Hunyak, and Lee Shantret on the forward line for the Kansas City Attack. For the Cleveland Crunch, Otto Orff in goal, Oscar Dragicevic and Scott Schweitzer at the back, Tommy Tanner in midfield, Henry Gutierrez, and Hector Marinero, already 68 points in the playoffs. That's 6 shy of an NPSL record. Cleveland State Convocation Center as we get set for the Cleveland Crunch Kansas City Attack Game 3 of the NPSL Finals. Our third member of our broadcast team is Greg Mace. Greg, as we get set for kickoff, what do you have for us?
Well, Dave, 1 key player for the Crunch is out and 3 others are banged up. Team captain Andy Schmetzer is out with a fractured left cheekbone. It happened in the division semifinals against Buffalo. He's here. Schmetzer's leadership and experience is going to be sorely missed. Henry Gutierrez and Glenn Carbonero less than 100%. And Zoran Karic still with that bad right knee. Now, Coach Bruce Miller told me before the game, Zoran's looked a little bit better in practice, but he's still very hesitant to shoot with his right foot. But Miller says, hey, look, we've had some key guys out for 6 to 8 weeks. We're in the finals. I'm glad I got some of my kids in during key situations. Miller calls this the key game in the entire series. Dave?
All right, thank you, Greg. Indeed, we believe it is the key game in the entire series for the Cleveland Crunch. They would have to come back from a 3-game deficit if they would lose this game tonight against Kansas City Attack. The Kansas City Attack in the road blue jerseys. Cleveland Crunch in the home white. The officials this evening, S.E. Bahamas, Mike Tamburino, and Sid Goodrich. We're underway early on, Art. What should we look for?
Well, Dave, the young guys that Greg Mace alluded to, Chris Hanser and Young Dasowski, they need to come through offensively tonight to give Cleveland some of that missing offensive support with Zoran on the bench for most of the game.
Zoran Karic referring to an injured right knee. So dangerous on set plays, and right away Brett Phillips with the outlet looking for Lee Shantret. And again, a bit of a smaller field, so goalkeepers here will take advantage of that and use their arms.
Well, Orff has already scored 5 points in this series, a 3-point goal and 2 assists, and that's more points than any defender on either team has scored.
Hector Marinero off the glass. Henry Gutierrez, it sails. Game 3 of the NPSL Finals, Cleveland State Convocation Center. 12-12 left, first quarter. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer with you. Still no score. As Otto Orff will bring it upfield for the Cleveland Crunch.
And this is one thing that Coach Bruce Miller said he might try, is to have Otto come forward a little more.
Hector Marinero getting a foot on it. Brian Haynes in the back. Went off Tommy Tanner. And now the Kansas City attack looking to counterattack West Wade. And the attack now applying the pressure.
And you can see right there how much team speed Kansas City has.
They have Jeff Rogers in there. He's a guy that'll buzz around the goal, but this is the pressure Cleveland wanted to put on the Kansas City players. Hector Marinero coming upfield, trying to get the foul, but SC Bombers keeps the whistle silent.
A good, positive run forward by Hector that time, trying to draw the free kick.
He was shoulder to shoulder with Brian Haynes. Lead to Shantrek with the turnover in midfield now for the Kansas City attack. To Shantrek, the centering pass. Doran Hunyek now places in the corner to Jason Farrell.
Well, Kansas City had numbers up that time, but Cleveland quickly back.
Hector Marinero, always the go-to guy for Cleveland.
You see Hector trying to split Wade and Haynes that time, and takes a little bit of a dive that time as he makes contact with Brian Haynes.
Well, you notice he went down after Wade toe poked the ball away, so he knew he lost possession, was trying to get the call. Scott Schweitzer in the corner. Very intense player, Schweitzer. That may be an understatement. Not afraid to get a few penalty minutes. Oscar Dragicevic, the Cowboy, as he's known for his Texas heritage. Cleveland Crunch in the white jerseys, Kansas City in the blue, and we're seeing a lot of turnovers earlier in the contest, Art.
So one guy you won't see turn the ball over quite often is Doran Hunyek. Watch the control from Hunyek.
Dragicevic taking the shot, and Brett Phillips forced to make his first save of the evening. Still no score, 10:26 left first quarter. And again, they're having trouble getting it through the midfield. Both teams are really right at this point.
Well, both teams with 3 days off in a new building now. Might be a little rusty here.
And it's like pinball at midfield, and one of these teams is going to try to string more than 2 passes together. Lead to Shantrek. Schweitzer trying to close him off, but to Shantrek, a very physical player. So those two go at it. The other way, though, this is Desosky. Desosky sliding it for Hanser. It's in the net. It's in the net. Doug Miller, 2-point goal.
Well, Cleveland's second line comes through for him. It's a line they desperately need offensive production from. And the play starts from Orff. Sends it out on the left side to Desosky. And watch the nice interchange between Cleveland. That's Hanser, who we talked about. Them needing production from him to Miller. And just a picture-perfect 3-on-2 to get Cleveland on the board.
Numbers up, and Cleveland goes up. 2-0 the score. Girls, Kramer, Greg Mace at the Cleveland State Convocation Center. Game 3 NPSL Finals. A 2-point goal from Doug Miller, the assist to Chris Hanser. And the Cleveland Crunch in the white jerseys with the early 2-0 lead to get even strength goals worth 2 points in the NPSL. Anything beyond that white mark you see worth 3 points. Free kick. Excellent restart opportunity here for the Kansas City attack.
And the guy they put on the ball, West Wade, tremendous at distributing the ball on these free kicks.
Using the boards, the ricochet. Jeff Rogers was crashing through.
Well, you said he likes to buzz around in the box, and you saw there, Wade tried to play the ball off the backboards for Rogers in the box.
Goal scored, Doug Miller sneaks around, Carmine off the crossbar.
Well, Miller was shut out in Game 2, Dave. It looks like he's really come to play here in Game 3. Already scored, and then a nice chance there.
Well, 3 days off, a long time for goal scorer to think about it. Lynn Carbonera on the ball. Back to Tim Tima, the veteran for the Crunch. Now the attack applying the pressure in midfield. Henry Gutierrez. He is marked by Carmine. The back heel, West Wade intervenes. And Ketters coolly gets it back to his goalkeeper, Brett Phillips. 9 minutes left first quarter. It's Cleveland with the lead.
Yeah, Cleveland had leads in both Game 1 and Game 2. 11-7 in Game 1, 15-12 in Game 2. But it was a 13-0 run and a 5-0 run in those 2 games that really opened it up for Kansas City.
And that's where Bruce Miller, the head coach, was talking about. Otto Orff having to get down, make the save. As Nate Hauser with the shot, he was talking about the defensive lapses really killed Cleveland's ability to get at least one game out of Kansas City in Kansas City. want to foul on Nate Hauser, and they get a penalty as he takes down Hector Marinero.
Well, that was a great call that time because he definitely had a hold of Marinero's jersey. You saw him right there pull down Hector, and Hauser's going to go to the box. Cleveland and Hector's going to get a shootout.
So 2-minute penalty to Nate Hauser issued by S.E. Boharmis, and now before the power play gets a shootout, Hector Marinero will go 1v1 against the goalkeeper. If he scores, it's worth 1 point.
And that's that patented move of Hector, the little toe poke off the board to set himself in turn. And that time Hauser could do nothing but grab Hector's jersey.
Shootout clock in your upper corner. Hector Marinero, Phillips comes out, makes himself look large, and makes the stop. But now a 2-minute man advantage for the Cleveland Crunch. If the Crunch score during this 2-minute period, they will have 1 point. It's 1 point.
Good job by Phillips to come out, as you said, Dave, make himself large. And I think Hector probably wanted to go a little higher than he did with that one. But as it is, Cleveland's going to be on the power play for the next 2 minutes. There you see, 5th in the NPSL during the playoffs.
And Zoran Karic, the injured player for the Crunch, coming off the bench for the restart. Phillips making the save, though, and now the long outlet giving some problems at the back. Orff has to head it away, and now Tushentrin battles for it. Henry Gutierrez digging in. Help from Oscar Dragicevic. And now the Cleveland Crunch again in the white jersey. Look at the Kansas City penalty-killing numbers, 2nd in the NPSL.
Well, they have a lot of speed on their man down with Tushentrin, Haynes, and Wes Wade. And then they have Lemnitis, who's a good stay-at-home defender to anchor this man down.
Again, it's the team in white with the man advantage, but it's Kansas City with possession of the ball. And they're doing a nice job just to run down the clock. Now Ketters taking a shot, and now it'll be Cleveland with the ball. So
Ketters was in a good position, Dave, to just hold that ball along the boards and kill some clock, elected to shoot it, and now Cleveland's coming back at him.
But they almost killed off about 50 seconds without allowing Cleveland a shot on the power play. Zoran Karic out there for the power play. Oscar Dragicevic. Under a minute. Again in the corner to Karic. You see the heavily bandaged right knee. And it's such an inability for him. He can take the shots with his left foot, but his plant foot also affected.
Well, the problem is they have to switch everything around to accompany Z on the power play. They've got him over on that far right side. He normally plays in the middle, so they're not only changing up their power play, but they're also changing their regular shifts.
And you see him grimacing with pain. Bain on the bench for the Cleveland Crunch. 2-0 our score on a goal by Doug Miller. The Crunch with the lead and still the man advantage. 39 seconds left on the power play. Ryan Haynes offering that pressure, again taking advantage of the speed. Karic does step back on the carpet. Oscar Dragicevic. Doug Miller has been posting up in the box. Dragicevic. For Miller, it's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal.
Well, that time Miller from Gutierrez, similar to the first goal, but from the other side of the field. But good patience on the part of Cleveland. Not much time left in their power play. But Gutierrez with all kinds of time in the corner to find Miller, and he just redirected past Wade.
1-point goal for the Cleveland Crunch on the power play. They have the 3-0 lead. And Doug Miller definitely putting it in the net with 2 Kansas City defenders seemingly in position in the box. Kansas City now will have the, actually Cleveland with a free kick, so the Crunch off to a fast start. But how fast is a fast start when you're dealing with Kansas City?
Well, Kansas City has shown that they can score over 20 points, but if Cleveland were to get up 7, 8, 9 points here in the first quarter, it would be a long road back for Kansas City. But I'll tell you, Kansas City is the type of team that likes to hang around, stay close, and then they really pour it on in the fourth quarter. Said earlier, Cleveland had the lead in both games 1 and 2, and it was just a couple big runs by Kansas City that really unnerved Cleveland.
Free kick for the Kansas City attack, but obviously, especially in this building, a smaller field, you don't want to fall behind because you leave yourself vulnerable at the back, and Cleveland could strike on the counterattack.
Well, when Kansas City made those big runs in game 1 and 2, that's where they really missed Andy Schmetzer, their captain. As you said, Dave, really has the leadership qualities and the calmness in those situations. And they just really came apart at the seams in both those games.
Speaking of the seams, Brian Lofton and Glenn Carbonera in the corner. And now, Doug Miller probing forward, trying to get the foul call to Nate Hauser. The Cleveland fans right away out of their seats, trying to lobby for the call from Essie Bahamas. Brian Lofton going for the ball for Kansas City. He can get at 5 goals in game 1. We talked about him in an open. Nate Hauser trying to pin it in for Kansas City, but now Chris Henzer for the Cleveland Crunch. He's shadowed by Lisa Shantret. John Lemjanis gets it back to Brett Phillips.
Cleveland really playing with a purpose tonight, Dave. They know if they lose here and fall behind 3 games to none, you know, their chances really are minimal at winning the series. Kansas City, on the other hand, knows all they need to do is split here, and they could win it in 5.
Shantret. Eddie Carmine takes a shot. Lemjanis, the stay-at-home defender, had to come forward. Now a foul, it'll be a free kick, it'll be a penalty. So another shootout coming up. Lemjanis getting the penalty. And a good call by Essie Beharvis because there's only one Kansas City defender back after.
But what really started that play was the good, strong tackle by Henry Gutierrez to win that ball. And then Tima came up and got dumped. And once again, Cleveland's going to have another shootout. This time it's going to be the Z-man, Zoran Karic, and we know he's favoring that right leg. Let's see if he opts to shoot with the right or try to deke Phillips and go to his left.
Brett Phillips has faced 8 shootout attempts, only allowed 2 goals in the playoffs. Zoran Karic, Phillips has it down.
Well, Z went to the left foot. You saw it, and he tried a little chip, but just didn't have the accuracy. You see, again, he just rolls it with the sole of his foot. Had Phillips beat, but couldn't hit the target.
Maine's 3-0 in favor of Cleveland. Again, the Crunch trailing 2 games to none in this best-of-7 series. They're in the white jerseys. Oscar Dragicevic. He had it far corner. Dragicevic trying to pin it in now. Kevin Ketters. Toe pokes it forward for Brian Haynes, but Otto Orff able to scoop it up. Now Zoran Karic out there hobbling on that bandaged right knee. Man advantage, minute 37 on the power play. Karic, marked by Eddie Carmine of Kansas City. Ball moving on the part of the Crunch, looking for Karic. It's in the net! It's in the net! 1-point goal!
Well, Zoran has been struggling with that right knee. So Hector Marinero says, I'll give you one to your head, Zoran. And Zoran shows you that he can finish with both the feet and the head as he knocks this one in the far post. I can't tell if Miller at the back post touched it in.
I think Karic had it. His forehand is fine.
And you see again, Karic,
he's
back
calling
post
for it.
header.
4-0 to score. Cleveland on top of Kansas City.
Don't miss a minute of your favorite sports.
Goals on the power play, and suddenly a 4-0 lead on the Kansas City attack. Kansas City in the blue jerseys, lead to Shantret. There's the goal scorer, Zoran Karic, using his head, literally.
And surprisingly, that's Karic's first goal in this series. He hasn't played many regular shifts due to that knee injury.
Dragicevic, Oscar Dragicevic with the foul at Gordon Hunyak. Now lead to Shantret. Nice interplay looking for Hunyak, but Hector Marinero comes back. Now they're looking upfield for Henry Gutierrez, with West Wade tracking back for the Kansas City attack. We're seeing him in a defensive position with the injury to Jim Schwab.
If Kansas City wants to stay in this game, they're going to need to finish their opportunities. That's something they did in games 1 and 2.
Jason Farrell, he's got DeShantret. DeShantret takes the shot, or with a read on it. Now Cleveland using the counterattack. Hector Marinero. Tommy Tanner.
Cleveland looks like a much more comfortable team in their home building. They were 16-4 here during the regular season, 4-0 here in the playoffs.
Tanner will take the shot. Phillips lunging the foul up. Oh. Phillips another save. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal, Henry Gutierrez.
Well, Brett Phillips doing all he can. But Cleveland still converting, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Zoran Savic take a timeout here. As you see the pass from Tanner to Gutierrez.
The Cleveland Crunch are crunching 6-0. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, Greg Mace in Cleveland.
And watch the work of Brett Phillips, the Kansas City keeper, coming up with 2 fine saves. But Kansas City's defenders all just standing around in their own zone. And Cleveland finds a man at the far post, and Zoran Savic wisely takes the timeout.
Tommy Tanner, the one finding the man at the far post. The man was Henry Gutierrez, 2-point goal, and it's 6-0 in favor of the Cleveland Crunch. Zoran Savic, the head coach of the Kansas City Attack. What do you think he told him during that timeout?
Well, he said, let's get better defensively, and that should trigger our offense.
Doug Miller pulling the trigger.
Can't keep giving Cleveland so much space in our own zone.
2:32 left here in the first quarter. Off the chest of Tim Tima, it'll be a free kick coming up for the Kansas City Attack. So 2 goals on the power play for the Cleveland Crunch. They've taken advantage of their special team situations here in the first quarter. But as you mentioned, Brett Phillips under siege. Gordon Hunyak trying to pinch one in, but I don't know if he's able to collect. Look at the field as Orff surveys and gets it forward to Henry Gutierrez. Cleveland patient in midfield.
Well, they can afford to be patient now that they've gotten off to that 6-0 lead. As you said, try to make Kansas City chase them and open up things in the back.
Henry Gutierrez. Crunch doing well, though, at midfield. Dragicevic. Oscar Dragicevic, he's hungry for one tonight. Minute 41 left, first quarter.
Well, Cleveland is playing here tonight like Kansas 1 and 2.
Wes Wade into the corner. Wade wanting to call against Tommy Tanner. On a Orff, the distribution. Hector Marinello, they have a 2-on-1. Kansas City's defense back. Coming forward, Dragicevic. He keeps it in. Now Marinero.
Come on, boys, come on.
Tanner cuts the goal. The shot goes with the save as Henry Gutierrez.
What a pass from Marinero to find Gutierrez, and a good save by Phillips.
Shatner gets called for the foul for Kansas City.
Come on, boys, come on. And here's that last save by Phillips. Good strike by Gutierrez. But look at all the Kansas City defenders just really staying back in their own box. No one coming out to close down the shot.
Well, they were concentrating on the Tanner-Marinero combination. They left Henry Gutierrez alone at the right point of the box.
Well, Hector has a tendency to draw attention to him. So 68 points already
something
tonight.
to do with that attention. 68 points in the playoffs. 74 is the NPSL record.
With the 2 assists tonight, make it 70 points.
So 4 shy of the NPSL record, which happens to be his. Wasowski now for the Cleveland Crunch. Chris Hanser, they're doing a good job of keeping possession, winning the 50-50 balls. Dragicevic, Todd Wasowski, he's through. Doug Miller, it's in the net! It's in the net!
Well, we talked about Wasowski and Hanser needing to come up big for Cleveland. Wasowski really makes this play happen with a great first touch, and then sets up Miller at the far post. And Dougie Miller loves to get the crowd going.
So Doug Miller with his second 2-pointer of the night, and suddenly it's 8-0 in favor of Cleveland with 13 seconds left first quarter. Kansas City, it's always a dangerous time right after a goal is scored, but Otto Orff able to handle things. And that'll do it for the first quarter of play. So, the Cleveland Crunch playing with conviction tonight. 8-0, the Crunch. An impressive first quarter for the Cleveland Crunch. And Doug Miller, part of the impressive first quarter for the Crunch, with 2 2-point goals in the second line of the Crunch getting involved in this NPSL final series. We're coming back with the second quarter.
State University Convocation Center where the Crunch have an 8-0 lead. This crowd on its feet, and they were on their feet a little bit earlier to recognize one of the all-time greats of professional football. For nearly 3 decades, he was one of the best in all professional football, one of the most beloved sports figures in Cleveland history, and he kicked the first ball out tonight. Lou Groza, great Hall of Famer. He joins me from the stands. We have a great view of the game tonight. And Lou, you were a great football player, but what do you think of the game of indoor soccer?
Well, I'm enjoying it. Actually, this is the first soccer game I've ever seen. And, of course, if you've never been exposed to it, you don't know what to expect. But I'm very excited about it because the good guys are with.
What do you think about all these soccer players, soccer-style kickers? When you kick, everybody kicked with a toe. Now everybody kicks like a soccer-style kicker.
Well, everybody owns one now, and, of course, the reason they're doing it is because it's been very effective with them. As you look and see, these fellows seem to be able to control their foot more off to the side of their foot, and, of course, in so doing, they get more surface to work with than the end of your toe.
So it's a lot different. I must ask you about your feelings over the last 6 to 7 months about what has happened to your Cleveland Browns.
Well, naturally, nobody in town is happy that this has all happened, and I can't believe it would have happened because we were supposedly the second best draw in the league, and you would think we'd been more successful economically speaking, not only as a football team, but the kind of dough you can make in it.
Good. Well, Lou, it was an honor to have you here, and enjoy the rest of the game.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be with you.
Lou Groza, one of the all-time greats of the NFL. Dave?
All right, Otto Orff, one of the all-time greats of the NPSL, collecting the ball, and now Cleveland in transition.
And Groza with all those three-pointers in his career. We haven't seen a three-pointer here yet in this game, but Orff just made a nice stop on a limnitis three-pointer.
Kansas City barely would need one. They're down 8-0. Cleveland in the white jerseys, Kansas City in the blue jerseys. This is NPSL Finals game number 3. Kansas City, the team in the blue, the visiting team tonight. They are up 2 games to none in this series. Kevin Ketters. A chance for Kansas City to get counterattack going. Haynes on the left wing to Shentret on the right, but Zakicevic answers the call. Now Marinello out for Fred Phillips is able to sweep it away as a nice through ball to Hector Marinello. Come on. We noted that the Jim Schwab not in the contest for the Kansas City attack, so the attack missing one of their top, if not their top defender.
Yeah, certainly their top defender, Jim Schwab, pulled his hamstring in game 2. Hasn't seen a shift yet. You see the Kansas City captain on the bench. It'll be interesting to see if he will play in this game. Doesn't look like it at this point.
To Shentret, the trap and the shot. Orff was able to close down the angle in the last moment. Nate Hauser tracked it back as Chris Handler with the ball. Nice feed to Dusowski. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal.
One of the reasons Cleveland is getting so many numbers up situations, that time it was a 2-on-1, is because Jim Schwab is not in the lineup. And this time it's Hanser to Dusowski, the 2 guys that we mentioned that need to come up big, and they have really done that here in game 3. Hanser now with 2 assists, Dusowski with a goal and assist for the Crunch.
And that's a good point, because we made the point at the outset about Kansas City being depth charged with the deep team, guys like Brian Lofter with 6 goals, Eloy Salgado who just had a touch on the ball. But now Cleveland, they may have seen her open. Some of their bench players want to get some more carpet time and some points.
And now we got another card that's come out, a delayed card on Kansas City, and Salgado is going to go to the box. He pulled down Tima behind the play. They got tangled up, and Cleveland is going to have another opportunity on the shootout.
This is their 3rd opportunity for the shootout tonight. S.C. Bahamas making the call. Cleveland has yet to convert on the shootout, but they've converted their previous 2 power plays.
And see if we can see it at the top of your screen right here. Salgado, Tima kind of pushing on each other there.
That's the 2nd penalty the team has drawn tonight. Hector Marinello, it's in the net. It's in the net. 1-point goal.
Well, that's the shot that Hector likes to use, that shot over the goalie's shoulder. I know he was thinking that on the first try, just didn't get it up high enough, but Hector converts here. Just Nothing fancy, one touch, and then Phillips going down, and Hector puts it up high.
Cleveland Crunch with the 11-0 lead. And now they'll have the power play for the next 2 minutes. They have scored on their previous 2 power plays, so once again, Hector Marinero puts it far near post. Rather, Dragicevic taps it in.
Well, that didn't take very long. Just 2 seconds after the shootout goal, Marinero to Dragicevic, who's wide open at the far post.
12-0 to score. The Crunch on top of Kansas City.
Play with
Kramer, and there's the guy who just set up the goal scored by Henry Gutierrez. Hector Marinero, he also scored on the shootout. And the Crunch now out to a 12-0 lead of the Kansas City Attack. So we had Henry Gutierrez getting the goal for the Crunch. 12-0 on top of the Kansas City Attack. And again, the Attack, they are the road team, the team in blue. They lead this series 2-0. But we talked at the outset also about home teams having an advantage in the playoffs, and it's certainly working for Cleveland tonight.
Well, our producer, George Veras, asked us before the show, how big would it be for Cleveland to jump out to a big lead? And it looks like that's what they've done, and I think it's very big. I'd be hard-pressed to see Kansas City get themselves back into this one.
Again, that's executive producer George Veras. Cleveland putting the pressure on Kansas City. Brett Phillips having to wander out. So again, Henry Gutierrez getting the goal for the Cleveland Crunch. They're a perfect 3 for 3 on the power play tonight. Todd Dosowski, part of that second line that's also been productive. Doug Miller trying to come forward, but John Lemganis is able to put it back to Brett Phillips. Now Phillips using the arm, trying to get it forward. Dangerous at the far post. Brian Lofton, he spanks it. Orff is able to knock it away.
And you can see this chance that Lofton just missed at the far post. In games 1 and 2, he finished every one of those chances.
Kansas City attack. Armin. The attack peppering the glass. Chris Hanser trying to win the ball against Cleveland in transition. And Hunyak down into Chantre. They're working to the corner. Hunyak down the header. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal. Gordon Hunyak from Kevin Ketters.
Oh, what a great goal from Kansas City. Picture-perfect passing, and Goran Hunyak provides the finish. You see Chantre play it down low, and then Hunyak, who's going to play outdoor soccer with Tampa Bay in the Major League Soccer, shows you that he can score with his head. And I'm sure Thomas Ranjan, the coach of Tampa Bay, very happy to see that.
Tampa Bay, in fact, the Mutiny off to a 2-0 record. But Gordon Hunyak, his concern is winning a title in Kansas City with the attack. 13th goal of the playoffs, 11-18 here. Left in the second half, and Cleveland right away comes back. Henry Gutierrez with some space if he can turn. Kansas City able to sort it out of the back. 12-2 lead. The Crunch on top of Kansas City. Again, Kansas City in the blue jerseys. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer with you from the Cleveland State Competition Center in Cleveland. Jeff Rogers, Wes Wade, and now Kansas City tries to form an attack. Ketters, marked by Tommy Tanner. Haynes cranks the left foot, Orff the save.
Well, Otto was going down, and he was lucky to get a hand on that shot to knock it up off the glass.
Well, sometimes, as a goalkeeper, better lucky than good. Wes Wade. Cleveland very tough on D tonight. Wade challenged by Hector Marinero.
Well, this is a situation that I'm sure Bruce Miller, the Cleveland coach, would like to see Cleveland possess the ball and make Kansas City chase it.
Haynes now puts it in the corner. Cleveland, though, closing down the outside. Haynes almost found one, far post.
And once again, Cleveland giving the ball away in their own zone.
Jason Farrell trying to win it for the Kansas City attack. Now to Wes Wade. Wade, you see him hold out his hand. He wants to get things organized. 9:51 left in the first half. Turnover in midfield.
And I'm surprised, once again, Cleveland just giving the ball away. Anytime you have a lead, and a big lead, as this is a 12-2, a little possession can go a long way because you'll start to make that other team chase, and there'll be all kind of space in behind them. But you just be a little patient.
Eloy Salgado, or close down the angle. So the attack. And Hauser tries to tee it up for Salgado, but Tommy Tanner intervenes. Crisp pass back to his goalkeeper.
And Otto's going to take a timeout. I'm sure that's what he's going to say. We need to keep a little bit better possession.
But the Crunch doing well in the scoring department. 12-2 is our score. NHL playoff time on ESPN2 on the Deuce. Later tonight, the Cardiac Caps, the Washington Capitals at home, trying to ambush the Pittsburgh Penguins and pull off a stunning upset in round number 1 of the NHL playoffs. The Cleveland Crunch is a rock and roll city, and they're kicking with a beat here. Crank it up. Good-looking logo. They'll be on the uniforms next season for the Cleveland Crunch. Cleveland's new sponsor, 32 Polio, that's the BP colors. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here in Cleveland. The Crunch in this revitalized city have become revitalized in this series. They lead this game 12-2, but trail the series 2 games to none. Best of 7.
Now Zoran Karic is coming out to play his first regular shift of the game.
Kansas City in the blue jerseys trying to quickly come back on the attack. Zoran Hunyak on the ball. He pulls that trigger. And there'll be a goal kick coming up for the Cleveland Crunch. Hunyak perhaps a little overzealous. Had some more time, could have started the play, but would like to take the shot. I think he saw something.
Cleveland's a team that likes to jump out on you early. They had Buffalo down 8-0 in their playoff series in one of the games, and Buffalo brought it back to 12-10, but just couldn't get over the hump in that one.
That was the American Division semifinals. Here the first half scored.
Kansas City 21-20 over Cleveland, and Cleveland has struggled in the first half throughout this playoffs. They've been outscored 83-66 in the first half in this year's playoffs.
But they've actually been outscored in the playoffs total, but amazingly made it to the final series, having to skip by Buffalo and just squeak by the Baltimore Spirit.
And the cardinal sin of a goalkeeper right there, throwing the ball out of bounds as that restart comes all the way back to the top of the D.
Now, Kansas City attack goalkeeper Brett Phillips. It'll be a free kick for the Cleveland Crunch. The restart here. Kansas City, the blue jerseys. Marinero surveys. I think they were watching Zoran Karic. They were able to put him back to Henry Gutierrez, but Gutierrez could not finish.
Well, they didn't really need to watch Karic because he was on the left side, meaning he would have shot with his right foot, and we know Zoran is not shooting the ball with his right foot.
There's that injury to his right knee. Jeff Rogers getting in close, crosses, but lofted. His shot is blocked. West Wade with the turn. Way down, trying to set up the offense. Brian Lofton with 6 goals in this playoff series. Wade frenetically working. Cleveland a 3-on-1. It's led by Dragicevic. Hector Marinero. Gutierrez, it's in the net. It's in the net.
Cleveland was fortunate to get that 2-on-1 as they had 2 players that were cheating, as we like to say, but Kansas City with 4 players forward, and now it's a 3-on-1 the other way. And when you give Cleveland 3-on-1, they usually make you pay. It's Marinero to Gutierrez.
As Dragicevic quarterbacked that 3-on-1. So 14-2 now in favor of the Cleveland Crunch. On top of the Kansas City attack, and again, that's what we talked about. If Cleveland gets a big lead, as they have got, tough to come back because Kansas City has to go forward, and it's a small field. Back to Marinero. Gutierrez cutting the goal. Hauser closes the option. Lofton, Jason Farrell upfield, but Otto Orth sweeps it away. A 3-line violation. Coming up for the Kansas City attack. Also Wednesday night on ESPN Baseball, the Cleveland Indians. Right here in this town will take on the New York Yankees, the Cubs, and the Padres also on the schedule. So again, the Indians trying to pick up where they left off last season. And what about the San Diego Padres? Doing a wonderful job in the Western Division, the surprise team perhaps in the National League. Corner kick coming up for the Kansas City Attack. No surprises here. The two best teams in the regular season in the NPSL, part of the finals.
And Cleveland, the best team during the regular season on restarts, surprisingly has been outscored on their restarts in this series. Kansas City with 3 restart goals, Cleveland only 2 during the first 2 games.
Nate Hauser for the Kansas City Attack looking for Hunyak, but again, Cleveland's defense blanketing. Wes Wade feeling the pressure of Hector Marrero.
Well, that's where the defense really starts, as your forwards providing the pressure up front.
6:17 left here in the first half of play. Cleveland in the white jerseys with the 14-2 lead on Kansas City. Henry Gutierrez, Wes Wade coming up with the steal.
Well, with Schwab out of the lineup, they put Wes Wade in a defensive role.
Gordon Hunyak now. Hunyak looking for Deschantre. It's redirected to the net. Scott Schweitzer was tracking back, trying to prevent the pass from getting to lead to Deschantre. Instead, it ends up in the net anyway.
And I'm not sure whether that's a 2 or 3-point goal. Let's see where Hunyak played that pass across from.
Well, they say 2 points.
You see Hunyak is outside the 3-point arc. That's deflected in. Should be a 3-pointer, but they're only going to get 2.
It's a very good point. Replay clearly shows that should have been a 3-pointer. Kansas City's bench, see if they're protesting. 2-point goal awarded, but Hunyak played it from beyond the arc, redirected off a Kansas City Cleveland player.
Now, those are tough to call when the referee sees it as a pass, and then the ball ends up getting deflected for an own goal.
So an own goal for the Kansas City Attack, 14-4, still a 10-point advantage for the Cleveland Crunch. That is a split-second decision the referees have to make. Chris Hanser under pressure for Cleveland. The second line and second group of players has had a strong night. Hanser coming forward.
And this second line of Cleveland has been outstanding with Miller, Hanser, and Gutierrez.
Well, we talked about Kansas City being so depth-charged. You look at those very impressive numbers, contributions from the Attack's second line. But tonight, the Cleveland Crunch taking a page.
Their second line really doing a great job. Actually, it's Dostovsky, not Gutierrez, on that second line.
So the Cleveland Crunch responding to the challenge. Players like Todd Dostovsky, Doug Miller.
Well, their second line caught some heat in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. The fact that Kansas City had really outscored that line by 15 points in the first 2 games. I'm sure the players read that and come out tonight and responded.
Ryan Haynes in the corner trying to get the ricochet. Jeff Rogers buzzing in the box for the Kansas City Attack.
They may have to give some credit to their beat writer, Dennis Maniloff, for pumping that second line up.
Well, again, there's been 3 days between Game 2 and Game 3, so a lot of time for the Crunch to maybe stare at that article. 4:19 left, first half. Kansas City trying to search their way into this. Down by 10 points, and in indoor soccer, that is not, repeat, not an insurmountable lead. Doug Miller, though, trying to add to it as he comes forward. Brian Lofton. Good Carbonero looking for Doug Miller. Lofton trying to put it back to his goalkeeper. Miller, oh, he's pesky. Getting in the middle. And Miller getting checked. Carmine was determined. Miller was not going to get around him.
Saw the fine move that time by Miller, and Lemnitis, actually with Carmine, has just stepped in.
Jordan Karich looking for Carbonero. Carbonero couldn't get a head on it, could not trap it either, but able to get it back to Hector Marinero. 3:40 left, first half. Otto Orr venturing out. Cleveland very much in control, in command. Karich putting it into the the box to Hector Marinero. That's a combination that has not been going this series because the injuries. Hector Marinero, it's in the net! It's in the net! And it's in the net!
Just a magical goal, Dave, by Cleveland. It's the dynamic duo. Watch the little flick by Marinero. It's actually a giveaway by Kansas City in their own zone. And look at the little touch by Hector.
Well, some of the problems Cleveland had in the first couple of games in Kansas City is now having here in Cleveland. It is 16-4. And that's a combination we have not really seen because of the injury to Zoran Karic, but Karic getting carpet time, able to work it. Hunyak and Shantred now peppering the Cleveland goal. Kansas City to Shantred. Jason Farrell, the ricochet. Good pressure on the part of Kansas City. They just cannot finish. Game 4. We'll be here in Cleveland as well, and of course, you can continue to follow the series on ESPN2. Mark that on your calendar and set your VCR, April 27th, 1:30 a.m., 10:30 Pacific. There's Otto Wharf getting set now for the free kick. Ryan Haynes. Otto Wharf setting things up. Orf able to handle things in traffic as Gordon Hunyak was actually behind Orf, the goalkeeper.
Otto smiling. He knows he got lucky on that one as that ball just was redirected.
Otto Orf. Look at Otto Orf. It'll be a free kick now for the Kansas City attack. Correction, Cleveland. Good covered arrow with the header. And Brett Phillips making the correction, making the save.
Well, you don't often see head ball goals in indoor soccer. We've only seen 2.5 and almost another one there.
All right, so Hector Marinero is now 1 point shy of tying his NPSL playoff record. He has 73 points, a productive first half for the dynamic one of the Cleveland Crunch, and a productive first half for the Crunch team, down 2-0 in this best-of-7 final series. The Crunch with a 16-4 lead on the Kansas City attack, and clearly they're now back in this series, and so much so that Hector Marinero has time for a couple of autographs. Why not? He can enjoy and savor this first half. Greg Bass is standing by with Crunch head coach Bruce Miller. Greg?
Bruce, tell us the difference between this half and the rest of the series. You guys are off to a great start.
Well, I think we've managed to get by Phillips a little bit, and that's the big difference. First of all, he shut us down in everything we shot at him earlier in the game, and I think we're defending a little better. We're tracking back, and we've never had any fear offensively because we always know we're going to get our points. There's only one time we've been held to 13 points in this building, but the key is to shut the other team down, and our guys have done a real good job at the defensive end. So we just hope we keep up with the same level of play, and we'll have some success.
Is Zoran doing a little bit better with his knee?
He's doing a little bit more work for us. When we needed the ball to be held up, I got him on the field, and he's doing well. And he's a great competitor, and he offers so much when he's on the field.
Bruce, thank you. Good luck in the second.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Bruce Miller, head coach of the Cleveland Crunch, and the Crunch taking a 16-4 lead into halftime. Balls of Fire NPSL Championship from the Cleveland State University Convocation Center. Halftime coming up.
Back at the Cleveland State Convocation Center, NPSL Finals, game number 3 of the Cleveland Crunch with an impressive 16-4 lead on the Kansas City attack. Dave Johnson back at halftime with Art Kramer. Indeed, the Cleveland Crunch, after having some problems in the first 2 games, it looks like they've gotten things sorted out, playing very well, and getting production from a lot of players like the Kansas City attack were in the first 2 games.
Well, they really are. Their second line has come to life here in game number 3. They're doing it every which way. They had 3 power play goals, a restart goal, jumped out to a 12-0 lead, and it's really going to be difficult for Kansas City to get back into this game.
In fact, the only thing Cleveland has done is scored a 3-pointer so far. Probably get that in the second half, the way things are going. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the first half of play. Indeed, highlights you always expect Hector Marinero to be involved.
Well, just a beautiful goal, a magical touch that time by Hector Marinero on the flick as he flicks it past Brett Phillips.
All right, talk about some second-line players being involved. Doug Miller.
Yeah, you see Miller at the far post. Dougie Miller, the first 3 goals of the game for Cleveland. He's got 4 on the afternoon. And it's been Miller time here in game 3.
It doesn't sound as good, but it's also been Gutierrez time.
Henry with 3 goals. This one off the restart on the power play. Pass from Hector Marinero.
And that's how Cleveland's so dangerous on the restart situations. All right, second half of play. A 12-point advantage. They're fired up in Cleveland. Can Kansas City get back in this one?
Well, I don't know. It's going to be a long way. I said in the first quarter that I didn't think so, and we know they could score points. They scored over 20 in the first 2 games, but definitely a long way to go for Zoran Savic and his troops.
And, of course, as they try to get back, may leave themselves vulnerable at the back. The guy who never leaves himself vulnerable is Greg Macy, as a very special guest. Greg?
Well, that's right. A very exciting moment for the NPSL and the Eurosport catalog, the famed soccer traders, and the official catalog of the NPSL. Adam Jones is the director of sports marketing, joins us. We've had a contest all year. We've got the winner. Tell us about the contest.
Well, the contest is called the Eurosport Great Soccer Getaway. It gives a customer a chance to have a great all-expense-paid trip, win a $500 shopping spree in the catalog, and $250 in cash. So it's a lot of fun.
And here's our winner, Patrick Dye from Dover, Pennsylvania, who, in fact, is a big Baltimore Spirit fan. Tell me how you entered the contest and how all this came about.
Well, I got a Eurosport catalog at the Baltimore Arena. We were at a game. I wanted to just make sure I got on the mailing list, so I sent my name and address, and by luck, they picked me as the winner.
And even though Baltimore didn't make it, this must be a thrill for you to be here at the finals.
We're having a great time. Cleveland's really putting it through Kansas City, but we're having an excellent time in the city.
Patrick, thank you. Adam, thank you. And thanks to Eurosport, great catalog. We look forward to a good second half. Dave?
All right, thank you. The official catalog of the NPSL, the Kansas City Attack, Zoran Savic. Any thoughts of what he might have said? We'll find out if his halftime speech worked. As we get set for the second half, Cleveland with the lead, 16-4. Spend this summer with your favorite soccer players. NPSL soccer camps are the fun way to learn. To find out how you can learn to play soccer like the pros, call 1-330-455-4625. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer in Cleveland. NPSL Finals Game 3. We get set for the third quarter. It's the Crunch with the 16-4 lead on the Kansas City Attack. As we mentioned, Art, any thoughts of what Zoran Savic, his checklist at halftime?
Well, Zoran is an emotional leader. I wouldn't have liked to have been in that locker room at halftime, but sure, he had a few motivating words. Certainly they need to take a few chances here in the second half, down 12.
Doug Miller coming forward for the Cleveland Crunch. Crunch in the white jerseys, Kansas City in the blue. The Attack trying to sort things out on defense. The Attack, while an explosive team, have not had a great history coming back when getting down.
You see there, trailed 14-6 in St. Louis, lost 30-10. As I said before, they're a team that likes to hang around.
Speaking of hanging around, Doug Miller and that second line of the Cleveland Crunch still hanging around.
Anytime you're on the road, you just want to keep the game close into the fourth quarter, but Kansas City has really let this one get away from them early.
We mentioned Cleveland taking advantage of the power play situation in the first half. They were getting back on defense, frustrating the Kansas City Attack and limiting the attack.
We mentioned in game 1 and 2 what great team speed Kansas City possesses, but it was really Cleveland in the first half that looked like the quicker team.
The Crunch trying to display some of that quickness. Tommy Tanner. Kansas City needing to get possession. And it's a difficult situation. They can't be patient. They've got to hurry up and try to collect some goals in a short period of time. Eloy Salgado trying to create the opportunity.
Well, I'm sure the key word for Bruce Miller and Cleveland at halftime was the word you just said, possession. They need to possess the ball with this big lead.
Salgado taking a couple of kicks at Tommy Tanner. Scott Schweitzer with the interceptions.
You always like to entertain the crowd when you're at home, but it's also important you play smart.
Also imagine this stretch very important, especially for Cleveland. They go into the locker room feeling good, feeling confident. They want to maintain that. And if Kansas City gets a couple goals here in the third quarter early, then all of a sudden the momentum they built up is gone, especially after the halftime.
Well, they've got a number situation here.
Brian Lofton. Lofton takes a difficult shot. Big goal kick coming up for the Cleveland Crunch. He had 5 goals in game 1, 6 in the series.
Whenever you have a 3-on-2 on the break, Dave, and you've got the ball in a wide position, you want to take it to the middle of the field and allow the player in the middle to get around your back. got many more options when you do that, as to opposed to what Lofton just did, and then take that ball wide and try to bank it off the board. Never want to bank it off the boards in a numbers up situation.
Because you've already had the room, you use the boards when you try to create the space. Nate Hauser winning the ball for the Kansas City Attack. Again, they've had trouble working through the midfield. Cleveland oftentimes coming up with the interception, reading where the passes are going.
Come on, boys, come on.
Lead to Shantret, marked by Chris Hanser into the corner. Gordon Hunyak to Shantret on the carpet.
Come on, boys, come on.
And Hunyak was really the one bright spot offensively for Kansas City in the first half with 2 goals.
Speaking of numbers up, Cleveland trying to create that. Dragicevic can't get a shot. Obviously, attack defenders getting back. Nate Hauser sweeping away, but Chris Hanser right there for the Cleveland Crunch. Spinning. The shot. Phillips to save the follow-up. And Phillips able to control it.
And the crowd wanted a handball, but a good no call because it wasn't intentional.
As Doug Miller denied. 11-10 left, third quarter. Kansas City. Look at the situation here.
Look, the shot, the rebound to Miller. Watch the ball pop up and hit Wade in the hand right there, but no intent. And a good non-call by the referees.
Free kick for the Attack. Wade tees it up for Brian Haynes. Haynes sliding it on the wing.
That was a case of one pass too many from Kansas City off their restart.
Through midfield. Jason Farrell will knock it back to his goalkeeper, Brett Phillips. Kansas City Attack, probing. Like Lynn Carbonero again. They're meeting him at the yellow line, not giving him the space to work and denying him. Henry Gutierrez, and now maybe we see some of this possession. Use the clock. On a wharf. Drops it for Gutierrez.
Henry very skillful. Does well with his back to the goal, but now a giveaway.
Shantret, Tima coming back, and Tima ain't short. Shantret does not get the effective shot.
Good play by Tima, but Shantret should have waited because he had Ketters to his right.
Wes Wade now. Works it on the far side to Shantret. In tight. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal, Elil Salgado.
Well, Shantret worked that one down low to Salgado at the back post. Salgado had gotten in behind Cleveland's defense, and he just slipped it in the near side. But look at all the defenders ball watching and allow Salgado to free himself at the back post.
Start of the third quarter, Cleveland with a 16-6 lead on the Kansas City Attack. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer with you for NPSL Finals game number 3 from the Cleveland State Convocation Center. The Attack in the blue jerseys, the Cleveland Crunch in the home white. The Attack lead this series 2 games to none, but it's Cleveland with a 10-point lead. Dragicevic trying to hit it in for the Crunch. Brian Haynes, and now the Attack. Haynes going for the 3-pointer, or able to swat it down.
Good save by Otto because that shot was deflected. Might have changed direction, but Otto put up that left hand.
Ryan Lofton with the steal for the Attack. Haynes, nice pass to elude the pressure from Tima, but the ball ends up to Otto Orff. Marinero facing the pressure of Gordon Hunyak. Hunyak trying to get in behind the Cleveland defense. The Attack desperately trying to create something.
Cleveland wants to possess the ball here with this lead, but they got to be careful they're not too casual in their own third of the field.
Team up for the Crunch. As we talked about, they have the lead. They cannot get careless and allow Kansas City some daylight. The Crunch have been more patient in the third quarter. Wes Seacrest on the ball.
Hector wisely backing it out.
To Shedford now for the Kansas City attack. So now Cleveland has to get back, set up on defense. A defense that obviously has been very effective tonight. Jeff Rogers leaves it for Hunyak, but again, two defenders close down Hunyak after he receives the pass. Foul against Westway. A free kick coming up for Kansas City. NHL playoffs later tonight on the Deuce. And the Capitals, the surprise team in the NHL playoffs, hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins from Landover tonight on ESPN2. Speaking of down, Scott Schweitzer put into the boards.
And watch again, Schweitzer gets drilled that time by Nate Hauser. And Cleveland's going to have another shootout. And you see teams rallying from 0-2 to win the finals. The Rockers defeated, that was a best-of-5 series as Detroit came back to win 3 straight.
And that's the case where you lose the first 2 on the road. In this case, it was what happened with Detroit. They came back, able to win the 2 at home and then get 1 in Kent. A shootout situation as the penalty assessed on Nate Hauser. So once again, Hector Marinero 1v1 against goalkeeper Brett Phillips.
Saw Hector go over Phillips' right shoulder the last time.
Marinero save Phillips. Still time now it expires.
Hector had in mind, Hector was thinking bicycle. But no sense injuring yourself.
Now Marinero is 1 point shy of tying his NPSL record for most points in the playoff, 74.
And he may well get it right off this restart. I was going to say Kansas City with only 1 in the wall.
Oscar Dragicevic takes the shot after Marinero started things. 7:33 left here, third quarter from Cleveland. Marinero is cutting in. Doug Miller, but Miller could not get a foot on it. You look at the power play numbers tonight.
If you're Kansas City, Cleveland already with 3 power play goals. But if you're Kansas City, you've got to close down the passing lanes. You're going to let them score. You got to make them beat you from the outside. A couple times, Hector's already slotted that ball into the man at the back post.
And if Cleveland scores here, it's worth 1 point. Once again, as we talked about, we don't see too many headers in indoor soccer, but we've seen more attempts tonight. Henry Gutierrez trying to head it in. 1:21 left in the man advantage for Cleveland.
And now Phillips is going to take the full 5 seconds that he's allotted.
They try to kill off the power play. Off lead to Shetfred, and out of Orff passes. So Orff can engineer things for Cleveland. Hector Marinero. Now Dragicevic. Kansas City trying to kill off this power play. Somehow mount an attack after that. Zoran Karic. Westway now leads to Shedfred. To Shedfred. Gets Orff down, tries to finish, but cannot. Dragicevic now having to dig in and do the house cleaning.
That was a good idea by Shedfred. He just made that move a little too soon.
Zoran Karic.
And right there, Zoran would have normally shot that ball with his right foot, and he's really limping badly behind the play.
2-on-1, Brian Haynes to Carmine. Got a night spit for Kansas City. They try to get a short-handed goal.
And you see Karic limping off as he made those 2 cut moves, but Kansas City squandering 2 great opportunities on the man down.
So they goal kick for Otto Orff. But as you mentioned, they're getting on a short-handed situation, 2 opportunities.
And nothing fires a team up like a short-handed goal. Had they gotten one there to make it 16-8.
Brian Haynes for the attack. Well, it's a best-of-7 series. Haynes with a
got
nifty
one more
move,
chance.
and again, they're getting the 2-on-1s. Nate Hauser.
3 great chances and not 1 shot on target. out of all 3 of those.
Well, team's back at even strength, but it remains the Crunch on top of the Kansas City attack, 16-6. And as you know as a player, sometimes in a game when you get down like this and one thing starts to go wrong and the next thing goes wrong, you give up a power play goal here, a penalty there, it's hard to get things back on track.
And we talked about all the mistakes Cleveland made defensively in games 1 and 2, but Kansas City, give them credit, they punished Cleveland when they had their chances. And tonight, you saw right there, 3 great opportunities and not 1 strike on goal.
Tim Tebow trying to pitch one for the Cleveland Crunch. Lead to Shantret with the steal off the thigh, out to Shantret. We're getting back Clint Carbonero. 4:50 left in the 3rd quarter. In a game that has been dominated. Lead to Shantret trying to go up and over Carbonero. To Shantret. Trying to make that turn. Uses the boards, the header. But out of order for the defense had it sorted out as Jason Farrell was trying to head it home.
And I'm amazed that Cleveland, with a 10-point lead, has given away so many opportunities to Kansas City in transition.
Chris Hanser. Cleveland. Hanser shut down by Wes Wade. Now Jeff Rogers. Eloy Salgado to Jason Farrell. Farrell on a half volley. Salgado working hard to try to win the ball. We have a whistle foul coming up against Salgado, so it'll be a free kick as he took down Todd Nasoski. 16-6 is our score. Cleveland continues to dominate. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, Greg Bass back in Cleveland. That's Brett Phillips having to make the save as Cleveland trying to score an opportunistic shot. 16-6 is our score. The Crunch lead the attack. Game 3 NPSL Finals. Kansas City, though, leads the series 2-0. Andy Carby working forward for the Kansas City attack. Crunch, though, with another steal. Scott Schweitzer. Challenging, though, is Eloy Salgado.
Having brought Salgado on in the 2nd quarter. Great offensive player.
And Salgado going for the sliding tackle, and instead he's getting a penalty on Oscar Dragicevic.
Well, it was unfortunate because Salgado was headed to the bench for a line change, and Kansas City gave the ball away, and Eloy had to come out. You see the door open up at the top right-hand part of your screen. Eloy wanted to change and got caught having to try to make the tackle. You see Jeff Rogers.
Dragicevic will limp it off, and Cleveland, another shootout situation. And speaking of limping, is Zoran Karic, who has been limping through this series. So the Crunch, everything going their way in Cleveland tonight. Shootout, the official magazine of the NPSL, is packed with information on America's premier indoor soccer league. Photos of your favorite players, league records, and statistics are all at your fingertips in Shootout. Send your check or money order for $5, which includes shipping and handling, to NPSL Properties, 229 3rd Street Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44702. And get your collector's copy of the limited special playoff edition that previews all 8 playoff teams. Order your copy of Shootout magazine today. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, Greg Bass in Cleveland. Now Cleveland with a man advantage for the next 2 minutes after Zoran Karic scored on the shootout to make it 17-6. And how about 18-6 as Henry Gutierrez and Doug Miller hooking up. And Brett Phillips and Bruce Miller still the intensity despite the large lead.
So we've seen 2 head ball goals. Now we've seen 2 own goals. This time Wade knocks it in his own net. Gutierrez will get credit. That's his 4th goal of the evening, just like his counterpart, Dougie Miller. But the 4th power play goal for Cleveland. And I tell you what, Dave, a smart move by Bruce Miller to let Karic take that shootout. Zoran has been held with no goals in this series till that time. we thought he had scored one in the first quarter, but they actually credited that to Dougie Miller.
And once again, Cleveland again. Brett Miller having to come out. And almost a handball. He's outside of the box, also committing the foul on Henry Gutierrez.
And this is what I like about Kansas City. They're a class team. You never see any nonsense with these guys. Helping the other team up, even though they're down 18-6.
That's a good point, because the game at this juncture could get ragged. So Kansas City, the same mission statement. Orff handcuffed there on the West Wade shot. Lead to Shantrin now. Leaves it for West Wade.
And we've got a Cleveland player,
injured player
behind the play.
And appears to be in a lot of pain. Cannot see who the player
Looks like
is.
Schweitzer down, Ordric Isevich.
Hope they're okay. It's always scary when you see him into the boards.
I believe that's Scott Schweitzer.
Yep. Now the Crunch with the lead, but they don't want to have any players injured. Let's see Wade.
Take another look. Wade takes the initial shot and couldn't really tell right there. Wade lands
on the leg of the player. Again, we cannot tell who the player is. For Cleveland,
I believe it's Scotty Schweitzer, and those are two players we saw go at it earlier in a game on the deuce.
Manny Economos, the trainer, helping him off.
And Manny Economos has been a busy man for Cleveland in this series with Karich's injury and also Dougie Miller, Andy Schmetzer, and now Schweitzer. Schweitzer's been hobbled with a bad ankle.
So Schweitzer will make it to the bench. It will be a free kick coming up for the Kansas City Attack as they trail by 12 points. West Wade puts it into the box to Shantrin, trying to get the shot off, but again, Cleveland had their marking assignments, Art. Wade down to Shantrin. I thought that was the one. Otto Orff with the gun for Hector Marinero. Eddie Carby back on defense. Marinero sets it up. Gutierrez can't finish. Hector does. Into the net. Into the net.
That may have looked like an easy goal for Hector, but he showed great composure to lift this ball over the defender who was in front of him. You see Gutierrez hitting the rebound of Marinero's shot, but watch Hector with the man in front of him just lift it up over the Kansas City defender.
And Hector Marinero now with an NPSL playoff record, 75 points on the two-point goal. He breaks his old record. All right, let's go to the doctor, Greg Mace, who can update us on all the injuries. Greg?
Dave, Scott Schweitzer is hurting. He's got a hip pointer, and that was no acting there. He was jammed into the boards over on the far left side, and he was very slow to get to his feet and slow to recover. I'm not sure if he's going to come back into the game, obviously, with this lead, but Scott Schweitzer was not faking that at all to get any kind of a blue card. He's hurting with that hip pointer right now.
Not trying to get a penalty. In pain, Scott Schweitzer, of course. Cleveland could ill afford another injury. This is a very long series as they dominate this game 3, the 7-game series. Kansas City now are down 20-6. What do you try to get out of this game? Obviously still hoping for the miracle, but they've got to start putting some things together. It's not been a good night for the Kansas City Attack.
So they need to get out of here without any injuries.
Chris Hanser now for the Cleveland Crunch. Todd Dosowski. Well, Jim Schwab of the Kansas City Attack was not even playing tonight, receiving a 5-minute misconduct as he got into it with official S.E. Baharmist after the shootout. So for Kansas City, that pretty much, I think, exemplifies the night. A player who's not even dressed to play gets a 5-minute misconduct.
No, I don't think Zoran Savic will try it, but wouldn't surprise me to see him go with a 6 attacker to start the fourth quarter.
Okay.
He's done it in the past.
That would
got
be
a lot of experienced players.
Wes Wade, often a 6 attacker role for the Kansas City Attack, so that may be something we look for. So we mentioned Jim Schwab.
And Schwab had a
sweatshirt
on over that jersey. Now the sweatshirt comes off, and I am wondering whether he's considering stepping out on the floor.
Yeah, the captain of the team has a strained hamstring. So that's what's kept him out of action tonight, the top defender for the Kansas City Attack.
But I would think if you're Zoran Savic, you'd want to use guys like Savic and Farrell and Lofton and Rogers. Give those guys regular shifts.
Eli Salgado. They just need a regular goal right now to Shantret. Cleveland does a good job tracking back. They actually had, I think, at one point there are a 3-on-1, and Cleveland was able to get back before the shot was taken.
Well, not the best decision-making that time on the part of Shantret.
Jason Farrell now trying to create some space. They're running out of time. 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Wes Wade fires. So Hector Marinero is practically written the NPSL record books in the offensive department, adds his name to another line. We're back with the fourth quarter. Cleveland rocking. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, Greg Mace, Cleveland State Convocation Center, 22-8. The Crunch with the lead on the Kansas City Attack. 13:56 left, fourth quarter of play. The Attack in the blue jerseys, Crunch in the white. Kevin Ketters now. Coming forward for the Attack. Again, despite that score, it's actually the Attack that lead this best-of-7 series, 2-0.
We talked about Cleveland having given up 17.3 points per game in the playoffs. They've done a fantastic job here tonight to hold
8 points.
Kansas City down to 8 points. They've really done a good job of getting everybody behind the ball defensively.
And Kansas City, a very good defensive team. They only allowed teams about 10 points a game in the regular season. 22 tonight. Greg Vichon, as Zoran Savic using more players now. But again, I think it's important because there's another game coming up in Cleveland, game 4, that Kansas City, at least in this last quarter, finds some kind of rhythm in this building. Because you can't simulate it in a kick around.
They'll try to find some rhythm. I don't know how much it'll mean to them going into game 4, but
Jeff Rogers, Brian Lofton. Wes Wade goes off the back of Gordon Hunyak. And now Doug Miller, always going for goal. Brian Lofton gets back, nice sliding tackle. 15 play on the part of Brian Lofton with 12:31 left in the quarter. Well, Cleveland, a championship caliber team. They won the title in '94, so they'd be very ambitious for anyone to think that Kansas City would be able to sweep a team of Cleveland's caliber. As you take a look at the point leaders tonight, Henry Gutierrez topping the charts. Jason Farrell for the left foot shot. Cleveland just good man-to-man marking on their assignments in the defensive third. Look at the NPSL history.
Last 5 NPSL champions.
And the Attack and Crunch, again, they met for the championship series in '93.
We haven't had a repeat winner since the Canton Invaders back in '89-90. They won the championship 5 times in the first 6 years.
And you were a part of some of those Canton Invaders championship teams. They were the dynasty in the early days of the NPSL. Wes Wade for the Kansas City Attack. But it's, as you pointed out, last few years has been impossible to repeat, or teams have not been able to do that. I think everyone thought Cleveland was going to be able to do it after the strong season they had in '94, but in fact they didn't even make it back to the final series, knocked off by the Harrisburg Heat.
Says a lot for the parity in the league these days.
Of course, expansion coming next year with the Philadelphia Kicks and the Toronto Shooting Stars. So quality soccer market, so we'll see how that adds to the mix in NPSL. But the final series, the concern right now, we have to crown a '96 champion. This is game 3, Tim Tima. Crowd loved it. The defender, Tim Tima, could get up and get a goal. That would pretty much top off the night. I think he's looking for the ball again. He wants it back.
Well, Tima, hometown boy here, grew up in the Cleveland area.
Well, he's a great story because they kept thinking maybe Tima would have to retire. He just kept coming back. They kept elevating his status from captain now to player assistant coach.
Well, in game 1, he was bumped out of the lineup. They elected to go with John Ball, a young, inexperienced player. But after a nightmare in game 1 for Cleveland defensively, they put Tima back in, and he's really provided a big spark defensively in Game 2, although they didn't win.
That's not to say that was John Ball's fault in Game 1. The Cleveland team defense just had some problems. They go with more experience than Tim Tima.
Well, Tima's a guy that you know is going to stay at home and sit back, block shots.
Except when the score is 22-8 and he's able to come forward and maybe try to get a goal, as we just saw there. Kevin Ketters now. Hector Marinaro takes a swipe at it. But again, they have been so organized on defense side. It's hard to think of. If you went over this game with the tape, it'd be hard to find the mistakes made by Cleveland tonight. They've been near flawless. Hence the score, 22-8.
You know, Dave, both these teams, as we look at this, defending the titles, and you see the points against per game, under 13, or 13.6 being the highest, and if you consider Cleveland with that 17.3 points a game against coming in, that certainly doesn't get it done when championships are on the line.
And that average for the Cleveland Crunch, if you remember the 94 playoffs, the first game against St. Louis, they were blown out, so they had a couple off games to inflate that average. In Cleveland, the score 22-8. The Crunch with the lead on the attack.
Feel the heat. Catch balls of fire. Call 1-800-80-KICKS for the only scorching soccer action available on home video. Get ready to smash, crash, and score with balls of fire. No soccer fan can afford to miss this sensational home video. Cheer all the heart-pounding plays, the greatest goals, the wildest kicks, and all the outrageous antics of the game as you've never seen it before. Call 1-800-80-KICKS now for Balls of Fire, the hottest, fastest, and most intense sports video you'll find. Don't miss your chance to experience all the blazing action, cool moves, and explosive entertainment of NPSL soccer. Get Balls of Fire for only $14.95 plus shipping and handling. All major credit cards accepted. This video is available only through this exclusive TV offer. If you like your sports action fast, serious, and fun, call 1-800-80-KICKS now. Balls of Fire. Catch it.
Play with the soccer ball of the pros, Candace, the official soccer ball of the National Professional Soccer League. Guaranteed for long-lasting high performance. Hand-stitched for superior quality, uniquely designed. Candace, the soccer ball of the pros. Available at soccer specialty stores everywhere. When soccer is the game, Candace is the name. Candace, the official soccer ball of the National Professional Soccer League. Candace for your team or league. A soccer ball that's one kick ahead of all the others.
Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, Greg Mace in Cleveland. Kansas City attack with a free kick from the right corner. They still trail, though, 22-8.
And Cleveland getting caught with an encroachment penalty here, and Kansas City is going to be on the power play.
But again, they will not get a shootout in this situation. But they will have the man advantage. Todd Dosowski of Cleveland in the box for the next 2 minutes. West Wade, Kevin Ketters, and it is blocked. Oscar Dragicevic paying for that one. Well, the fans respond.
Oscar doing a good job of stepping out that time and blocking that shot.
So corner kick coming up for the Kansas City attack.
They've got so much skill on the field with both these teams, and I really believe it's the team that finishes their chances that's going to win each game.
Well, I asked Bruce Miller, the Cleveland coach, and I said, all right, first 2 games, did you get the chances you wanted? He said they did. They were looking for Gordon Hunyak, and they just weren't finishing. They are tonight.
Here's a man-down opportunity for Cleveland.
Hector Marinaro, Doug Miller, it's in the net! It's in the net! That's 2-point goal!
Here we got 2 guys going for the Golden Boot Award tonight. Miller and Gutierrez, as both of them have scored 5 goals. This time it's a shorthanded goal as Hector with a beautifully paced ball to Miller, and all he had to do was stick his foot on it for the finish.
A Cleveland Crunch with a 24-8 lead on the Kansas City attack. Catalog from the fabled Soccer Traders. For a free catalog, 1-800-447-0750. It's an attractive full-color catalog everything, and I mean everything you could ask for in that Eurosport catalog. Go ahead and make that call right now. Find some goalkeeper jerseys in that Eurosport catalog. Warren Westcoat on the right from Kansas City. Jim Adams on the left from the Cleveland Crunch. So getting some action here late in the game. Fourth quarter with the Crunch in command, 24-8, Art.
Well, both goalies are veteran goalies in this league. Westcoat actually won a championship.
He was the starting
Kansas City.
goalkeeper back in '93.
He was actually the starting goalkeeper for a lot of this season and then was injured, and Phillips stepped in and won 9 straight games, and Phillips has kind of solidified the #1 job in the playoffs, but Westcoat is an outstanding goalkeeper in his own right. A little different. He's a left-footed player, as opposed to Phillips, who plays normally from the right side.
That's a good point about Westcoat, and it illustrates just how deep this Kansas City team is when effectively they have 2 starting goalkeepers. But for Kansas City, as deep as they are tonight, it's been the Cleveland depth that has also come through. Second-line players like Doug Miller pouring on the points, a 24-8 lead.
And you heard Bruce Miller mention at halftime how great that Phillips had played against him in Game 2, and you can't help but wonder if Phillips isn't starting to tire out a little bit here in this series.
Ryan Haynes going for goal. Go for baseball. It's that time of year on ESPN. The Indians and the Yankees. The Indians try to pick up where they left off last season. And, of course, the Chicago Cubs, San Diego Padres from a place they call the Murph. Padres also doing well this season. And baseball tonight with Gary Miller. You can catch it every night to get the complete wrap-up of the American and National Leagues. Now, in San Diego, they brought back the old Padre mascot who had gone for a few years. So maybe bring back the mascot.
The chicken?
No, not the chicken.
Not the
actual,
chicken?
the Friar. The Friar wearing
Okay.
the robe. Ryan Haynes for the Kansas City Attack. Attack trying to keep the pressure on, and now Cleveland. Hector Marinero surveying for the counterattack. Clint Carbonero and Westcoat. Warren Westcoat gets down for the save.
Cleveland was looking for their second shorthanded goal as Kansas City was still on the power play. That penalty just ending now, as you saw Kosowski step out of the box at the top of your screen.
Wes Wade now for the Kansas City Attack. Gordon Hunyak, they go far post. Nate Hauser unable to put it in. Wade getting back up quickly. Hauser. The shots are going, they're just not going on target. To Chantrette. Now Hunyak. Foot save Jim Adams. Just not there for Kansas City tonight.
You said the key words, Dave, on target. Can't score if you don't hit the target.
And Hunyak will track back for the Kansas City Attack. Mentioned the San Diego Chicken. He's from time to time has appeared at indoor soccer games and does actually a pretty good routine.
It's good to see you've been doing your mascot homework.
That's why we study on the plane. You never know when an anecdote like that can come up. Wes Wade looking for Jeff Rogers. So Cleveland Crunch really came out and dominated from the start, and they are so comfortable here. And one of the reasons why the fans, they come out in numbers for Cleveland, 6,897 on a rainy night in Cleveland. So great fan support here. This is one of the flagship franchises in the NPSL. Under the direction of owner George Hoffman. Jason Farrell. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal for Kansas City. 24-10 the score. 14-point game. So
And
Jason Farrell, they
simple
finally get one.
restart. Wade to Farrell, and that shot was deflected, I believe, by Tanner right there. And Otto, who had gone down. Actually, it's Adams who had gone down.
Now Kansas City not going down without a fight anyway. 24-10 the score. Dave Johnson, Art Kramer, and Greg Mace in Cleveland. 24-10 our score. The Crunch look on their way to winning Game 3 and getting back in the series, trailing 2-0. Kansas City in the blue jerseys. Cleveland in the white. Brian Haynes for Jeff Rogers. Jim Adams a save. The followed by Greg Beach. It's in the net. It's in the net. 2-point goal. Greg Beach. And is a Kansas City rally starting?
Well, Jim Adams might want to take a timeout here as he's given up 3 straight points, but Adams made a nice save on the first shot, but Veach came through and put the rebound home. You see Adams right there gets tangled up with Tanner, and Veach following up nicely.
Veach right there to finish. 24-12 the score. Well, Cleveland's still very much in control, but now a mistake is Cleveland, a turnover. It'll be a kick-in coming up for the Kansas City Attack. Veach, they want to make sure he's adjusted for national television. Again, we will follow until this silverware is passed out, the NPSL trophy. And there's the schedule. Go ahead, grab a pen and paper, mark it down, set the VCR. You want to catch all the action on ESPN2 as Cleveland and Kansas City battle for the '96 title. Wes Wade going for a three-pointer. Oscar Dragicevic with the steal. And Gordon Hunyak getting back on defense. So Kansas City trailing by 12. It's only 4 three-pointers.
Well, back in game 2, we mentioned when Schwab went down with that pulled hamstring that we thought that would be big, and it didn't turn out to be in that game, but they sorely missed their captain and defensive leader, Jim Schwab, here in game 3.
Cleveland crunch now. Chris Hanser. Adams under pressure, and Salgado with the steal, the finish.
Oh.
Adams getting it off the line.
And Salgado looking in amazement at how that ball stayed out as it hit the inside of the post and then went straight back to Adams.
Ball has to fully cross the line. Well, that's, again, another example. There's been a few occasions tonight where things just have not gone Kansas City's way, and that's how a game gets out of hand, and they fall behind 24-12. Ron Bader after the ball for Cleveland. Wes Wade digs it out. They attack with 4.5 minutes left. Eloy Salgado, the cross.
Hammer him, Jason, hammer him.
Hands are able to steal it away.
Come on, we got to get back on team.
Cleveland.
Nice back heel by Gutierrez, playing with a lot of confidence, Dave.
Well, the whole Cleveland team, despite falling down 2 games to none, playing with a lot of confidence tonight, winning the 50-50 balls. They've been so effective in midfield, coming up with the balls and then going on in transition.
And more importantly, they have finished their opportunities, something that Kansas City did in the first 2 games.
It's about scoring. Jason Farrell. Ryan Haynes now for the Kansas City attack. Haynes trying to get that left footer going. It's difficult ricochet. Well, the Crunch have had some big wins in their history. They had a win against Buffalo in the first round, but all time in the finals 29-8 against St. Louis in 1994. That was in game 3 of that best of 5 series in '94.
Wes Sechrist now on for her first shift, makes a nice block for Cleveland. And you'll see Sechrist now going down the side.
Sechrist for Chris Hanser. Westcoat. Hanser trying to bicycle it in.
Well, tried to score a spectacular goal.
Trying to make the highlight reel. Ryan Haynes.
I believe he was trying to take a page out of Hector Marinaro's book.
Hector Marinaro's book being the record book. Hector in the record books tonight has broken his own record. Most points in the playoffs was 76. You go ahead and make the judge, Art.
Well, Hanser looked like he was going to back it out and then thought otherwise, thought he could bicycle. That ball wasn't up high enough. A little ambitious try there by Chris Hanser.
We'll give him a 6.5 for the try.
Well, Hanser's played a fine game as he got Cleveland started with a nice assist from Doug Miller.
Tim Tima going for a goal. Tim just called me Pele Tima, trying to put on the moves. 2.5 minutes left. So the Cleveland Crunch about to get their first victory, and that's how come back in a series, get that first one. Best of 7 championship series. This is game 3. Gordon Hunyak. It's been tough for Kansas City to pierce the Cleveland defense. Ed Carmine winning the ball. Coming through, Greg Beach. Jim Adams in control.
And what's nice about this win for Cleveland is they haven't had to use Zoran Karic in the second half, and he has gotten some much-needed rest.
On that injured right knee, Zoran Karic and Hector Marinero, 2 of the most dynamic players in the NPSL. Nate Hauser eludes a challenge from Henry Gutierrez. Gutierrez knocks it upfield. And in Kansas City, they want to get out, resort for game 4. For Cleveland, again, a big win. We saw that graphic. They've done it before in the playoffs. Fallon, Marinero. Well, we talked about the importance of having depth in the playoffs, and it certainly has come to roll for Kansas City. Ryan Lofton with 6 goals in this series, but tonight it's been the depth of Cleveland.
Cleveland's second line with 13 points. Miller, Hanser, and Dasowski. And on that first line, Gutierrez with 5 goals, and Marinero also with a big night.
And a record-breaking night. 24-12 our score. Eurosport. You can score with them, the fabled soccer traders. The color catalog is free. 1-800-447-0750. They have replica Major League Soccer jerseys in that catalog. Brand new catalog is out. 1-800-447-0750. The official catalog of the National Professional Soccer League. Later tonight, it is game 4 of that series between the Pittsburgh Penguins and Washington Capitals. Who would have thought the Capitals would win the first 2 in Pittsburgh? Now they have the 2 at Washington, game 4 tonight.
And Dave, Kansas City fans could get out to the box office tomorrow because there will be a game 5 in Kansas City. And head down to Kemper Arena and pick up their tickets for that one, or call the Kansas City front office.
Game 5 of the series will be Thursday night in Kansas City. Is Otto Orff, 15 saves tonight.
Orff, the only man in the league with his initials on the back of his shirt.
00 Otto Orff, or is that 00? Depends. Tommy Tanner. Greg Beach digging in from behind. It'll be a free kick coming up. So less than a minute left. And they're already starting to celebrate here in Cleveland.
But when you have a lead, you never want to take a big lead at the end of the game. You never want to take more than 1 or 2 touches on the ball. You may get a player's leather boot from the other team.
So Kansas City, what's going to happen between now and game 4? What's Soren Savage going to be saying?
And I think he'll keep it positive, remind the guys they still have a 2-1 lead in this series. May watch the film, but probably will opt not to watch this one.
20 seconds left in the game, and everyone's calling it a game. Kansas City with respect to Cleveland, the fans on their feet here as the Crunch playing like a championship caliber team. And the game now almost over as Doug Miller with a big night tonight. So indeed, the final tonight, the Cleveland Crunch, 5 goals from Henry Gutierrez with a 24-12 win over the Kansas City Attack. For Greg Race and Art Kramer, I'm Dave Johnson. We'll see you with Game 4 in Cleveland. NPSL Finals on ESPN2.